From Naples, Florida, this is the One Extraordinary Marriage Show, where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex has taken the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call or text us on the Hug Hotline at 858-876-5663, or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's episode, we're talking about the power of romancing the one you love.
And there's a quote from Billy Graham that says, "The word romance, according to the dictionary, means excitement, adventure, and something extremely real." He goes on to say, romance should last a lifetime. And as we're talking about today's episode, we're talking about romance. I couldn't agree more. And so we're going to be digging into that in today's episode. But first, we start every episode with a hug. And for those of you that are brand new to the One Extraordinary Marriage Show, we want to welcome you. We're so honored and blessed to have you here listening as part of the One family. And just to tell you that the hug is really an opportunity for us to celebrate your stories of transformation, to hear from others who have taken, positive, proactive steps in their marriage. And this hug comes from an Instagram DM that we received that said, "I wish I had the words to express how grateful I am for your podcast and some others. It sent us on a healing journey this past year. For 28 years, we felt like we were broken sexually, that it just wasn't in the cards for us to experience it well. It wasn't until finding Gary Thomas's book and other podcasters like you willing to share and be vulnerable that we realized we aren't broken. And what we have experienced is actually pretty normal. It makes me so angry that the church hasn't taught about sex. All I know is that I am grateful, and we're passing the knowledge on to my kids and the young marrieds that we lead. Here's your hug. Thanks again."
Wow, that is awesome. And, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you've been married 28 years or if you've been married, 2.8 years. You can start. You can start somewhere. So truly honored and blessed to have you part of the family and what you're doing to pass it along and share with others.
Absolutely. And, as this episode is first being released, we are about 2 weeks away from Valentine's Day. And I just want to say that's a little PSA for those of you that are like, well, wait, it's still January. I know it's still January, but February is coming.
Right. And
I'm just planting the seed that, if the two of you do celebrate Valentine's Day, you still got time.
I think she's doing this for me, you guys.
I'm just, it's a PSA. It's PSA. Take it, if you feel a little convicted, then that might be something that you need to do a little work with. But, part of that too is, and we've said this so many times over the years, that Valentine's Day is really, it's just one day on the calendar, right? It shows up February 14th, like clockwork every year. But coming into this place of what does it look like to really make this commitment to romance one another throughout the year, to romance the one you love, not just on a day, or maybe you get 3 days out of the year. Maybe you get Valentine's Day, you get a birthday, and you get an anniversary. But that still leaves 362 days where you could be thinking about romance. And, it's also stepping into this place, and maybe this is the year that you really start to think about doing this, to learn what's meaningful when it comes to romance and what that word actually even means to your spouse now, whether you're, like Tony was saying, whether you're 28 years in or you're 2.8 years in, like, you've changed, right? And our preferences in terms of what it means to be romance don't necessarily stay the same, right? Getting, I still remember our very, very first Valentine's Day, and I know I've shared it, but it does come up, about this time every year. Tony and I have been dating for, at that point in time, probably about 8 months.
Yeah, because it was August the year prior.
Yeah, 6 to 8 months. And, it was my first Valentine's Day. I was in a sorority house. And so, before you're a member of a sorority, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know he loves me. I know we're at that point. Maybe he's going to drive out. And
we said I love you to each other 2 months before.
No, it was before that.
That was New Year's.
No, it was before New Year's.
It was?
I'm pretty sure it was.
Oh, okay.
But I'm thinking I'm getting the ring, you guys. I'm thinking, he loves me, I love him. When you're in a sorority in college, you're like, oh, we could have the ceremony and all of this kind of stuff. And this is what I'm thinking, right? And so
This is not what I was thinking.
No, clearly.
I'm going to just say that right now. This is not what Tony was thinking.
And I'm sharing this story because this is how you get clear on like what your expectations are around romance, right? Because I'm thinking Tony is going to drive from Colorado. He's going to like knock on the door. I'm going to get an announcement that there's a caller, because you always had a gentleman caller, a caller in the foyer. And I was going to go down there, and there he was, and it was going to be like this big whole like, oh my gosh. So like, this is my whole expectation, right?
Yeah, I love it.
And
every time you tell it, I have to laugh because it was like the farthest thing from my mind.
So I do get the announcement, over the PA system in the sorority house. Elisa DiLorenzo, you have a delivery. And I'm like, okay, not quite what I was thinking, but like maybe that's just code, right? Like maybe he said, hey, like don't tell her there's a caller because she'll know it's me, that kind of thing. So I'm still like, oh my gosh. And so I get downstairs and I'm kind of like looking, I'm like, okay, where is he? He's not here. And then I look on, we had an entry table at the sorority house in the very front. And I do see my name on a card. It says Elisa DiLorenzo, and it
doesn't say Elisa DiLorenzo.
It's Elisa Torres.
It's Elisa Torres.
Well, see, that's kind of what I was hoping for. But it says Elisa Torres, and there are 3 red roses. And
that's about what I could afford.
And no Tony, and no ring. So while I was still super excited that first Valentine's Day to get the red roses, I will tell you there was a little like burst bubble in terms of anticipation. That's why we talk about finding out what's meaningful. Not that it would have changed. Not if I had told Tony that like, hey, I'm expecting a ring. He probably still like, we might not be married. I might have actually shocked you if I had said I was expecting a ring.
Yeah, at that point in time in the relationship, I may have ran the other way.
I did keep it to myself. But I share that story because it does highlight the fact that there are expectations, and finding out what is meaningful to your spouse is such a big deal, because what does it say? Mm-hmm. It says, you're important. I see you. You matter to me. And I know right now, like some of you are just going, first of all, Lisa, your expectations were way too high in that story. I'm like, okay, fine. But some of you are also thinking, Elisa, I'm not romantic. Like that's just not me. Like this episode isn't for me. And straight up, stop it. As you did something romantic. There was some romance between the two of you that got you to the point. Right? Like there was great conversation and there was romance that got you to the point where you're like, I could see myself spending the rest of my life with this person. And it went somewhere, right? That romance went somewhere. You just may have simply stopped. You're like, yeah, I got the guy, I got the girl. Like, what do I got to keep doing this for? Or maybe you just got lazy and you're like, yeah, I'll do it a couple times a year. Maybe there's been rejection that has kept you from like keeping up with that. But I don't want any of you to fall into this place of going, that's not me. Because if it's important to your marriage, if it's important to your spouse, you can learn how to do it. You can flex that muscle. You can build those skills, right? It's not just well, that's not me. So my spouse is going to have to like take it or leave it, right? That's a crappy way to be in a marriage.
Yeah, being intentional and taking action, as you guys know, is to the tenets of One Extraordinary Marriage and what we believe in. And a lot of it means that goes from first, what can I do, right? And I really do think around this romance, the one you love, a lot of it lies on us individually. And what are we willing to do? What are we willing to step into? And for some of you, you do need to step into this. You've been feeling it and you're just sort of like, well, what do I do? How do I do it? And really the biggest thing is taking that first step to just starting something. Mm-hmm. And I know even for myself, like I can get a little like, but if I try that, what's going to happen? Is Elisa going to like it? Is she not going to like it? And I can almost talk myself out of it. And then there are times when I do something, I just step into it and I just go for it. Because I know that by me making a positive change in myself and in our marriage, Elisa will come along. And it's interesting. And I'm not saying she just like, oh, okay, Tony, you did it, so let me go do it with you. Like there are times when I'm doing things and I'm doing it over and over and over again until Elisa begins to realize, understand, see the effort that's being put forth. But I think the big thing is, are we willing to take a step forward in romance? And I know it's a tough one for many of us. I can raise my hand on that area too. Like, this is good for my soul, like, to listen and hear Elisa and even you, the one family, and sharing with us, like, what does it look like to be romanced?
Mm-hmm. And, last week on Instagram stories, we asked the question, how do you like to be romanced on special days? And I very specifically, when I was asking that question, used the word special days and not just Valentine's Day, because you two get to define what the special days are in your marriage, right? If it is anniversaries or birthdays, or maybe you celebrate your first date anniversary and not just a wedding anniversary, or, whatever that might be. And we asked the question, I did tie it in a little bit to Valentine's Day, because it turns out that, some 55% of you do celebrate Valentine's Day. So if you do celebrate Valentine's Day or any special day and you're looking for ideas, we asked the one family. So these are your peers. These are other couples like you working to make their marriage extraordinary. And the ideas were fabulous. I mean, some that don't surprise me, and others where I'm like, I haven't thought about it. I will say sex made the list. So let's just lay that out there first and foremost. So if any of you are
it is romance is part of that sexual intimacy pillar. We say that, it's romance initiating foreplay sexual intercourse. So that lines right up.
No surprise, but I just want to put that at the top of the list. So if anybody's like, I wonder if sex is on, it is.
Yep.
Sex made the list. Other comments were dates at home with lots of intent behind them. And I would think intent behind them, would be, lighting the candles. Maybe it's, a special meal,
music's on. It's like there's something more behind it than you and I just, finishing our day at work and going, all right, let's have a meal.
Yeah, that's not a date.
That's not romancing one another by any stretch of the imagination.
Something small, dinner in, and a gift like a favorite tea or chocolate. A small, thoughtful gift, boxers or underwear, or a trip to an adult store. Receiving flowers and a cooked meal. The cooked meal came out a lot.
Really?
Yes.
Right.
People like either sharing that experience and just having that time where there's no other distractions, or having, I think very specifically, having husbands make their wives a meal.
And here's something that I was talking to my cousin a week or so ago, and we were just talking about raising children and everything. And she's a year older than I am, and how for us anyways, meals, the art of sitting down for dinner got lost in our raising our children. In our generation, it wasn't. Like, we had meals together.
Right.
But with the proliferation of sporting events and practices and everything like that, which we fell into with sports almost every season and all that, you lost that. And I could see where meals are important. And us moving here to Naples, one of the things is we live in a gated community, and which we love. But at the same time, it's sort of like getting in and out of our community is sort of like, oh gosh, it's a little bit of a drive. And so what we've ended up doing is more and more is we're eating at home.
Right.
And now, again, could we do
it's
more
just
of
our
a
placement within the community, you guys. We're just literally the farthest spot from the gate.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying is, from a romantic dinner standpoint, I can understand the why that is because there's intent. There's we're doing something. We're not just getting served and going out and picking a meal and there's people and it's crowded and it's just us. And maybe you got to get a babysitter if you have youngins, or you got to wait till they go to bed to do that. Sure. Elise and I used to do that. But there's something about that just is, it brings you and it draws you together. Again, not the normal day-to-day stuff, but maybe candles, maybe music, maybe you put on something nice, lay out a blanket on the floor in front of the fire. Yeah,
absolutely. Other people said kind words, appreciation, more meaningful touches throughout the day, being naked together, love letters, kind words. There were a number that kind of hinted into that, like, I want to know you care and put it in writing type of category.
Yeah, nice card I see here.
And when she initiates, dancing in the kitchen, little surprises.
I like this. To quote Kevin from The Office, I want to be wine, dined, and 69.
That was actually somebody's response, you guys.
I love it.
Like, you just got to put, I'm not making this stuff up. This is what you guys said. I love it. And I think, for so many of you, as you were listening to this list, Some of you thought about, oh yeah, I haven't thought about that in a while, or that's a really good idea. Or you've been thinking, you know what? My spouse really does like that. But it's not enough to just hear something. Mm-hmm. How do you put that into action? What does that look like in motion?
What can I do?
What can I do? And we're going to be talking about that after this break. Do you feel overwhelmed when it comes to makeup? Well, Charlotte Tilbury has bottled 30 years of artistry into easy to choose, easy to use beauty products. You can't go wrong. They're flattering for everyone, everywhere. That's the reason why she is the queen of glow. Her rigorous standards ensure that every product is designed and formulated for performance like nothing else on the market. Take her iconic Hollywood Flawless Filter. With one product, you can blur, smooth, and illuminate the look of skin. Plus, it's skincare infused for clinically proven hydration for up to 24 hours. From red carpets to influencers' bathrooms, her legendary icons have gone viral for making everyone look and feel like the most beautiful, confident version of themselves. Charlotte Tilbury is performance you can trust. It's legendary for a reason. You can use CT Podcast 15 for 15% off on charlottetilbury.com. Plus, new account holders get free delivery. This ad is brought to you by Charlotte Tilbury, USA customers only, and valid until March 2nd, 2025. For full TNCs and exclusions, see the Charlotte Tilbury website. With us brand new to Southwest Florida, trying to figure out what our next home is going to be is so much easier with Redfin. Whether you're looking to buy or rent your next place, you need the Redfin app. Redfin makes it fun to search all the homes and apartments in your neighborhood. We've been able to look at so many different homes in the area, really getting a feel for what's here and what we like. It's been fun to search and ask the questions, where do we want to live? What are homes like here? What amenities do we really want? And if you find a place you love, Redfin makes it easy to go see it in person. Just schedule the tour right from the app. Plus, if you're looking to sell, Redfin agents know how to get you the best price possible for your home. That's because they close twice as many deals as other agents. And with a listing fee as low as 1%, Redfin's fees are half of what others often charge, which means you'll have more money to put towards your next home. So whether you're looking to buy, rent, or sell, Redfin's got you covered. Download the Redfin app to get started. We're back, and we're talking about the what can I do in order to bring romance to those special days throughout the year. You know, knowing what's important to your spouse and how they want to be romanced and even how you want to be romanced. Can I just for a second here, I ask this question a lot when I'm working with my coaching clients. I will ask the question, how do you like to be romanced? And more often than not, I met with a blank stare because it's not something we think about. Like maybe in those dating phases where it's like, oh, I'm going to do the flowers. I'm going to take her out and I'm going to, do something special. But I do believe for a lot of couples over the length of a marriage, especially as those years start to stretch out, we just kind of like, hey, we're good. We're going through it. And so to actually put a hard stop on it and say, how do I like to be romanced? We passed a car the other day, you guys. The whole back was filled with sunflowers. And I was just like, oh, sunflowers. Like we haven't seen, I actually haven't seen sunflowers that much. I mean, like I see them at the flower, but like not
at the farmer's market.
At the farmer's market, but like the farmer's market has got fabulous flowers. But it was just that like, oh, I haven't gotten flowers since we got here. And that's true.
That's true.
That's true.
That's true.
That's true. But like being able to.
So you like being romanced with flowers?
But here's the thing, not just any flowers.
I know,
and
sunflowers.
And sunflowers are kind of my thing, and they've always been my thing.
It's a good reminder for me. It's been a bit.
But you have to have these conversations because sometimes you don't even know, and so your spouse is trying, and it's not landing, and they're getting frustrated because you all haven't had the conversation. How do you like to be romanced? Or you haven't been able to give them an answer. Right? Because if you don't give them an answer, they're like, well, I'm gonna throw chocolates at you, and I'm gonna throw a coffee at you, and I'm gonna throw, hey, do you want to sit in front of the fire? Like hoping that something sticks.
So what would be your top 2 ways to be romanced? So obviously sunflowers.
The sunflowers are always a good start.
Yeah.
I think my second one, like I love it when we actually get out to even though you don't drink coffee, I do love it when we go sit in a coffee shop together and just kind of watch people watch and things like I love that because I know we don't need
to find one here.
We have not found a great substitute for some of the ones we had in San Diego. So all of you that live in the Naples area, feel free to send us a DM if you've got
that
a great
one we went to in Bonita Springs off of Old 41.
That was good. was a little
tight. Yeah.
But anyway, so if you've got some good ones in like the Naples, Bonita Springs, Estero area, send them our way. We're happy to. But I like that time with you.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that's when we'll pull out Monopoly Deal, that type of thing. And so that for me,
as a way to romance.
And you can always buy me new lingerie or underwear. That's always a good. It's like a
the last piece of lingerie I bought you though I really like it. So
does it come in other colors?
Yeah, but I like that green color on you. I don't need another color per se.
Okay.
So I do really like that one because I feel like it's very fitting for you.
Okay. So let me ask you a question.
And for those of you who are like, oh wait, what is that? I'll put a link here in the episode notes so you can see what it is. But it's been a great seller. I mean, people have said they loved it, and I do.
What I like about it, just as a side note, is that it's a good combination between knit and lace.
Yes.
And so it's like comfy and sexy all at the same time.
Right.
That's what I like. But let's turn that question around. Tony DiLorenzo, how do you like to be romanced?
I do. And it hasn't happened in a long time. It's nothing against you by any stretch of the imagination. Excuse me. I do like those letters or little love notes that get left around.
Is that why you still have the one from when you went and when did you go on your trip that I left you the one above your toilet?
Yeah. I don't know how long ago that is, but yes.
You went somewhere. Was that in the fall?
Maybe.
It must have been. You must have traveled, and I put it up there because it's still there.
Yeah. So I would say I like that. Like to me, that means a lot. I love like finding that little note in my suitcase or somewhere, or even that little sticky note. I love it. I think it's wonderful. And then I think it's the intentionality of when we are out somewhere just holding hands. There's something about that I just feel is romantic. It's and especially if it's more like an evening time deal and we're just sort of walking around and, I think that to me it's simple, but it goes a long way. I think there's something about that and just, so those would be mine.
Okay. And that's the kind of thing that you can do. You can have make time for that conversation and ask specific questions. What types of gestures, romantic gestures mean the most to you now? How can I show you, a different way to ask the question, how can I show you that you're important to me? Mm-hmm. What makes you feel seen and valued? And, we all have phones around us, pretty much nonstop. Start a note on your phone where it's like, here's how my spouse, or fill in the name here, likes to be romanced. Write those things down. People, don't leave it to chance. We're all getting a little bit older, brain fog, memory. You got a lot of, I'm 50 now. There's been a lot of stuff that's had to be put in the memory banks over the years. And so I don't remember everything. But if you have a note on your phone, you can put those things, like if somebody says, oh, sunflowers, Tony could put that in his notes and be like, I'm going to do something for Elisa. Where's my Elisa note? And I'm going to get her sunflowers, right? If it's not the kind of traditional celebratory days, like I had a coaching client years ago, birthday, anniversary for her, Mother's Day was super significant. And so that was something that she wanted to be really recognized and romanced and something like that. Like you have to know if there are other days, and to have that kind of conversation is super important, but writing it down, right? Taking from that list of what are those special actions and making it a priority to implement that action. Write the heartfelt letter. Plan that intentional date at home. Surprise them with their favorite small gift. Make time to go to the coffee shop or whatever they like to do that is significant of the time.
Can I just say one thing? I am also going to put a link here in the episode notes for you. For those of you who do want to write a love letter or a love note and are just like, ugh, we have a great article called 7 Tips for Writing the Perfect Love Note to Your Spouse. So that's here. Mm-hmm. Because I know a lot of us sort of get tripped up, but again, we don't have to. It can be a systematic sort of like way of writing it, but it's still your words.
Right.
And so this has helped many couples in the one family, and maybe it'll help you. So we'll have it here in the episode notes for you.
And can I say something when it comes to writing those love letters or love notes? Do it in your own handwriting. Like take time to find a piece of paper. And I don't care if your handwriting's chicken scratch or if it's, lots of loops and hearts and things like that. There is something about having those notes in his or her handwriting that elevates that gift.
Mm-hmm.
Your spouse sees enough digital text. Take the time. It's another level of intentionality.
Yeah.
It's another level of the commitment.
Agree.
And then don't be afraid. Again, I'm giving you permission to use your phone. Don't be afraid to make romance a priority by like setting reminders on your phone. I will tell you, and many of you have heard this story over the years, when I had a client that liked to get flowers, and her husband kept missing the dates to get the flowers. Literally in the middle of a coaching session, I'm like, pull out your phone right now. And he's like, Elisa, we're coaching. I'm like, yeah, I know. It'll be fine. It's all part of the lesson. So he pulled out his phone and I said, you know all the important dates. I want you to back up 1 week before the birthday, anniversary, mother's, whatever it is that she likes. And I want you to put a note on your phone. Repeat into infinity. Get my wife flowers for X. It's next week. And then you will always be the hero. And it's true. It has changed their life, right? But it's because he made an intentionality of putting that on the calendar. Do go above and beyond to, not even above and beyond, step out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. If it's certain like hugs or touches or hand holding, like do it. Do it. This is a little Nike moment when it comes to romance. Sometimes you just got to do it. If your spouse loves words, practice saying them. A quick, hey, honey, you look great. Thank you for doing that. Like, you might not need to hear those words, but if your spouse does, there was a book years ago. I don't know if you remember this. When Abby was in kindergarten, it was all about filling the love tank. Mm-hmm. And we used to talk about filling up the love tank. And romance, knowing what gestures or actions, if you can think about your spouse having a little gas tank, their love tank, how are you romancing them to fill up that love tank so that when work does get crazy busy, when the kids have been up all night, when you've gotten that unexpected bill, there's enough romance and connection in the love tank to carry you through those seasons. You keep making the deposits. It's so important to keep making those romantic deposits throughout the year, not just on the special days, so that when the storms of life come, you've actually got the resources in terms of connection to be able to navigate all of that together.
Yeah, and I'm going to put one more link in here because I think this is another one to help you have those romantic conversations, because you might be like, I get it, Tony and Elisa, but how? And so we have a guide here that you can grab, 28 romantic conversation prompts to deepen your connection.
Yeah.
And so grab that. I mean, whatever you choose to do. And again, this isn't only about Valentine's Day. If you've listened to us long enough, over 15 years, Elisa and I have swung so many ways around Valentine's Day, to the point of not doing it at all, to sort of kind of doing it, to doing it all in. And that's in the last 15 years of our marriage. So it doesn't matter where you are when it comes to this day of the year. What this is about, though, is how are you romancing one another every day in and day out? What does it look like? And yes, is it going to happen every day? Probably not. I'm not going to say we do it. And yet, is there a way, just me listening here today, just listening to Elisa going like, how can I romance her? What could I do once a month? Once a quarter? What does it look like? So take this week. Think about it. Think about what can you do to romance your spouse. If you need help, we have guides for you here. Come, check out the links. Think about it. If it's about a love letter or a note, put it to action. You know, if it's like, ooh, I know some fun lingerie that my wife, maybe my husband would love some, silk boxers. That's a great way to romance them. Go jump on it. Maybe it's like, we just need to have this conversation. Like, what are some romantic prompts? Mm-hmm. We got that here for you too. Whichever way you choose to do it, the biggest things are be intentional and take action. Because with those two things, anything can happen. So go out there, romance one another, love on one another, strengthen your 6 pillars of intimacy so you can have the extraordinary marriage you desire. You guys have yourselves a fantastic week. We'll catch you next week. Love you guys. Thank you for listening to the One Extraordinary Marriage Show. If you love this podcast, please leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you are listening. Your review helps others find the show and know that it's the right fit for them and their marriage.